Section 5.4, solving compound inequalities with the word and in between. Essential question. How do you solve a compound inequality that is written in interval form? So all the problems in this lesson, when you graph them, should make an interval because they're in interval form. You know something is in interval form if they have two inequality signs in the same, like grouped in the same problem. So since I see two inequalities grouped in the same problem, that's what tells me that this is an interval. So train tracks get drawn through both inequality signs. And our goal, just like when we do any other inequality, is going to get r by itself. Now the way that we do that is we have to get rid of what's next to the r, so that's the plus 7. So we're going to subtract 7 in the middle, and 7 on the right, and 7 on the left. So you're actually doing it 3 times. So 7 and negative 7 makes 0, and you're left with r. 10 minus 7 makes 3. 6 minus 7 makes negative 1. Then you're going to bring down your inequality signs. So this right here is your interval inequality. When you graph intervals like this, you don't have to make the 3 graphs. You can just make the 1 graph. So I'm actually going to delete this graph, and I'm going to make my own. So we're going to put negative 1 here, positive 3 here, and then I'll do my circles first. So close circle here, open circle here. All right. Then the first one I like to graph is the r is less than 3. That one is easy. I just have to go like that. The one that is trickier is this one right here. And that's because we need to rewrite it before we graph it, because we can't do our graphing trick because r is on the wrong side. So I'm going to rewrite it with r here, negative 1 here, the mouth is opening to the r. So I'm not shading to the left like up here, I'm actually shading to the right. So then, with your pencil or me with my eraser, I just want to look at where they overlap. That's what an interval should create, is we're looking at where they overlap. So I'm actually going to erase where I don't see the blue and the green. I only want it where the blue and green overlap, so this should create an interval graph, which it does. So our interval is negative 1 is less than or equal to r, which is less than 3, and our interval graph is below it. All right, so once again, we have 2 inequality signs. So since I have an inequality here and an inequality here, this should create an interval graph. So I'm going to draw my double train tracks again through each inequality sign. I'm trying to get my variable x alone. So the way I'll do that is the opposite of minus 3 is plus 3. I have to do that on all 3 sides. 3 and negative 3 make 0. Bring down my x. 4 and 3 make 7. Negative 2 and 3 make 1. Bring down my inequality signs. And there is my interval. So then if I go to graph that, I'll make my number line. Go from 1 to 7. I need a closed circle. And I need an open circle. I'm going to graph this one right here first, because it's easier, because the x is already on the left. And then before I graph this one, I have to rewrite it. So put the x on the left, the 1 on the right, mouth is opening to the x, so the mouth opens to the x. So this one should go this way. I'll pick up my eraser and erase the spots where they don't overlap. So their interval goes from 1, closed circle on 1 to the open circle on 7. Another way of shading it, rather than like that, is just this too. You don't have to go up and above. You can just shade like that. Either one works. All right, third one, same thing again. 2 inequalities, so it should make an interval. Now this one we have a number next to our variable. So I'm just going to delete that. All right, so we need to get x alone. So minus 1, 3 times. Bring down our inequality signs. And then now, I don't want that 2 there, so the opposite of 2 times x is dividing. So I'm going to divide all 3 times. Just like I minused 1 from all 3 parts, I'm going to divide by 2 on all 3 parts. So these make x, these make 2, these make 4. So this right here is my interval. And then I'm going to go ahead and graph it. So 2 and 4. Close circle. Open circle. X is less than 4, so that'll go that way. If I rewrite this one, x is greater than or equal to 2, so that'll go this way. And then I'm just going to erase where they don't overlap. It should be an interval, which it is. We're shading from 2 to just under 4. All right, now we need to write an inequality for our graph. And since this graph right here is an interval, we know we need 2 inequality signs. So I'm going to start with the -1 on the left, the x in the middle, and the 2 on the right. Because if you look back at all of ours, we had a number on the left, x in the middle, number on the right. Number on the left, x in the middle, number on the right. So that's what we should always have for an interval. Now the hard part is figuring out which way should my inequality symbols go. So if you look at -1, -1 is shading to the right. Now in order to think about the fact that it's shading to the right, my arrow should be pointing to the right. So that means the mouth has to open to the x. For the 2, we're shading to the left. My x is already on the left, so it's going that way. These are a little tricky to figure out what way the arrow should go. Remember that for an interval, all intervals, so I should say all interval inequalities go the same direction. So when you get done, if yours are opposite directions, so meaning they both should be less than or they both should be greater than. If you have one less than and one greater than, you know you did something wrong. They should be the same inequality sign. Less than or greater than, or equal to doesn't matter, but they should both be less than or both be greater than. All right, let's try another one. So this interval goes from -3 to +4. So I'll put my x in the middle. You know what, I actually think it's easier to deal with the bigger number first, so let's do that first on this one. So my 4 is going to the right, so then we got to go that way. Now one other easy way to think about it if it's confusing, you know if you did this one, you know that that one's going to the left, so just make that one go the same way. Otherwise, if you want to rewrite it, x and -3, the -3 is going to the right, so it should go to the right. So if you flip it, the mouth is opening to the x, so the mouth has to stay opening to the x. So whatever you want to use to try to remember.